Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. The BBC is meant to be an impartial news service, but it's obviously clear now that it is anything but impartial, and in fact, it seems to be under the control of the SNP. They keep complaining, and the BBC listen to the complaints to such an extent that it affects their editorial content. That is to say, the BBC now are running scared of publishing stuff that may be seen as detrimental to the SNP. How can this possibly be? Everyone supposedly pays the licence fee, those who are against the SNP as well as those who are for it. And for a news organisation to deny reality and to hide facts from the very people who pay for its actual running simply because of one political party doesn't like those facts says a lot both about the SNP but also about the cowards of the BBC. And it's further evidence, I think, that the licence fee should be dismantled, the BBC should be sold off and privatised, and that everything about the BBC now is completely politically corrupt. It is no longer fit for purpose. Let's have a look. So the secretive BBC refused to... Secretive BBC, secretive SNP. There's a connection, isn't there? Anyway, secretive BBC refused to say how many complaints the SNP have made to them because they play a significant role in future editorial decisions. In other words, the SNP sees something it doesn't like, complains, and the BBC get on their knees and kiss the arse of the SNP to make sure that they're not inconvenienced or embarrassed in future. Nationalists believe that the BBC is biased towards the union and are known to complain about this. Well, I would suspect it probably is, considering where it gets its funding from. Because let's face it, very few Scots pay in compared to, say, the English. But even within Scotland, more people pay in if they're unionist than do nationalist. So, yes, you know, you've got to pitch to your audience. But on the other hand, if that's the case, why so eager to not upset the SNP? It's very weird, isn't it? The broadcaster refused to disclose how many complaints have been made this year. It's a public-owned organisation. It's got no right to hide anything. Everything about this corporation needs to be out in the open. If they want to be a private company, fine, they can then retain the data. But while they are paid for by the public have a right to know. They have an obligation to tell people exactly what is going on. For them to be hiding it shows that they are actually in bed with the SNP and therefore they are politically biased. They didn't like Lorna Slater either, but it's called satire. And just because Lorna Slater doesn't like what she looks like or the fun made of her for being as thick as custard is not the BBC's doing. It is up to Lorna Slater to change her image and to get an intelligent education behind her, something sadly heretofore lacking. The secretive BBC have refused to disclose how many complaints the SNP or the Scottish Government have made about its output this year. I haven't had any complaints from the SNP and I haven't stopped. They're saying it plays a significant role in helping to inform editorial discussion and decisions going forward. Editorial decisions should be in the hand of the news people alone. You should not hide news stories simply because political parties don't like them. The moment a news organisation hides the truth, spins the truth, does anything other than tell the truth, it ceases to be a news organisation and it becomes a political entity. And if the BBC wants its income, wants its licence fee, then it can't be an arm of a political wing. But it currently is. It's pro-SNP. If it's bending the knee to the SNP, it's a political organisation. Anyway, this is evidenced by the Twitter page MSN Monitor, which frequently attempts to paint valid criticism of the SNP executive as misleading or one-sided. It attacks journalists for reporting on stories which are critical of Alibaba's administration. And yet, it's the truth. What they're saying is, stop telling the truth. Stop highlighting how awful the SNP is. Stop telling people about the bribery, the corruption, the criminality, the stupidity, the ignorance, the ineptitude. Stop telling people this. It's not fair. It's not fair that the Scottish people are made aware of how awful the SNP is. It means come an election, people might not vote for us, and that can't possibly be fair. That's their argument. This is genuinely their argument. You must not tell people how bad we are. It may change the way they vote. That's the argument the SNP are using. And it's the argument that the BBC is accepting. Is that not stunning? Does that not amaze people? It's blowing my mind. So the BBC are now saying that they are no longer an impartial news service. They are the political or the broadcasting wing of a political party. One of the biggest examples of this was the numerous social media complaints about sketches published by the BBC as part of its Noising Up political programme. This made fun of all the political leaders in Scotland, but nationalists were outraged by the portrayal of Lorna Slater. Strangely, I'm just outraged by Lorna Slater. The BBC released a cartoon of Miss Slater and mocking her love of taxpayer-funded limos and also for being Canadian. It made animations to go alongside the podcast, with the short social media clip labelling her the Minister for Green Skills, Circular Economy, Biodiversity, Short-haul flights and maple syrup. Which is very nice. I had some last night on some pancakes. Num 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 num. In the clip about Limo Lorna, it also referenced reports about her enthusiastic use of ministerial cars. Of course, the classic one was when she took a train to Aberdeen so she could be seen to be green. But while she was on the train going up to Aberdeen, there was a driver from Edinburgh driving up to Aberdeen in the limousine. So when she got to Aberdeen, she had a nice limo to be driven around in, having gone there by train. But the poor guy had to drive up there on his own. You couldn't make it up. And I didn't. It's true. Anyway, the character promoted a series called Lorna Slater's Great Green Limousine Journeys, described as a 3,000-mile taxpayer-funded journey around the UK. We've covered that in a past video. These were removed by the BBC after numerous MSPs complained. We don't like you telling the truth. We don't like you highlighting how awful the people we're in government with truly are. Please take it down. Please don't criticise us. The people of Scotland will think we're terrible people. Equalities Minister Emma Roddick described it as unnecessarily nasty. It wasn't nasty. How could it possibly be nasty if it's based on real events? Do you know what I find nasty? I find Lorna Slater nasty. I find her entire party nasty. I find what her party want to do to the people of Scotland to be really nasty. So can we cancel them? That would be fair, wouldn't it? If you can't cancel the criticism, can we cancel everything? Oh, no. It's only one-sided, isn't it? Christine McKelvey called it dreadful. The Green MSP Mark Russell responded, "What's funny about needing a car to do your job?" Well, what's funny is when you take a train to Aberdeen and get a guy in a car to drive to Aberdeen so you can drive around Aberdeen, because apparently Aberdeen doesn't have a fucking taxi. The Scottish Daily Express asked for copies of all the complaints made to the Beeb by the SNP and the Scottish Government, but were told the information was being held for the purposes of art, journalism or literature. That means it's not obliged to disclose this data. In other words, there's a cop-out loophole bollocks that we're not going to tell you, because we know by telling you it will be horrendously embarrassing both to the BBC and the SNP, and they don't want to embarrass either party because the BBC is kissing the arse of the SNP. Don't know why. The SNP are gone. They're done. They're a spent force. Come the next election, nobody. Boom, gone. And then the BBC were going, "Oh, we've tied our hitch to the wrong stick, haven't we?" Officials wrote, "You have requested information that relates to editorial complaints. Editorial complaints form part of the ongoing review of the standards of quality in particular areas of the programme making with a view to further enhancing these standards." That sounds like a complete and utter line of bullshit, doesn't it? Is that not the biggest line of bullshit you've heard? To say, we're not answering your question because we need to protect this bunch of charlatans. And you must never know that they're charlatans, crooks, criminals, that they are inept, stupid, ignorant, that they are corrupt, that they are potentially mass murderers. I bet you that news story will never be on the BBC. Pucker up, buttercup. Head of editorial news, kissing the arse, never saying a bad story in case he gets a nasty little letter from a nasty little person in a nasty little party. I'm coming up. Now, I have to say, I don't have a TV licence. I refuse to pay them because I don't want any of my money going to that horrible crypto Marxist organisation that calls itself the BBC. It is not the British Broadcasting Corporation. It is a minority, ideologically unsound, woke bag of complete left-wing wankers. They want to push identity politics. They want to push diversion, inclusivity. They don't want to push what most people in this country are. They don't. They try to manipulate. They try to push sexuality onto children. They're all peds. The BBC filled with them. I mean, let's face it. They covered up Savile for years. And I tell you what the great thing is. This will sound really, really nasty, right? But Esther Rantzen is now dying of stage 4 lung cancer. Esther Rantzen knew for 30 years exactly what Jimmy Savile was. She did nothing, said nothing. And then she went on and did Childline, probably out of fucking guilt. And so, Esther, enjoy what you're getting. Got no sympathy for you. But the BBC was full of them. You know, you've got him. You had Stuart Hall. You had Rolf Harris. All BBC. Rolf Harris's Cartoon Time. Hey kids, come and watch me, kids. I'll do cartoons for you. I like cartoons. It attracts children. BBC pushing that shit. All of them. All the time. Filled. And they all knew. They all knew. That's who the BBC is. And now they want, please give us your money. Give us your money. We need your money. And they're saying now so many people are stopping the licence fee that they're running out of money. They now want it put onto council tax. So you pay for the BBC whether you want it or not. Surely not in this day and age. Surely, with all these other ways of watching TV and paying for TV, the BBC should go to a subscription system. Let's see then how good you are. Okay, here's our subscription model. Pay for this and we'll give you the BBC. How many people will pay for it? BBC will be bankrupt overnight. Because if you're relying on all the woke wankers that you make all your programmes for, you ain't going to get any money at all. Because those bastards don't pay you. You're done. But if you try to take it on the council tax and force everyone to pay it whether they want it or not, there'll be a bloody riot in this country. Stand on your own 2 feet, you woke left wankers, and stop pandering to the likes of the SNP. They're not worth it, and you are no longer an independent television company. I'll stop now. Thank you very much. I'm angry. I got angry. I didn't mean to. Anyway, till next time, stay safe, stay well, and I will catch you later.